Eyes are my favorite thing about a person when I make new friends. I judge them from their eyes. My biggest turn on. Eyes. Every perception I have about a person is all dependent on their eyes. I don't even mind it. It makes things simple. If you don't have nice eyes, I won't like you, and I don't have to judge personalities or past actions or anything, just eyes. I guess it might have something to do with my eyes. My whole life, I've been told I have incredible eyes. They started out bright green, almost like grass, but they changed from time to time, but never ceased to be a vibrant, beautiful color. A couple days ago, I had met the most beautiful woman. She was dark-haired and a bit overweight, but what made her so beautiful were her eyes, nonetheless. They were so blue, very bright, and almost icy, like the color you'd find way out in the Arctic. They were mesmerizing. After catching that sight, I stared at the back of her head, where her eye level is, hoping she would turn back around so I could look into her marvelous eyes. But she never did, just moved up in line, paid for her stuff, and walked out. I needed to see them again. They were too amazing to just disappear as quickly as they had come. I abandoned my handful of items and ran out of the store in an attempt to catch her. Luckily, I found her loading her trunk with her recent purchases. I approached her and asked if she needed any help loading up. She looked up from the trunk and looked directly into my eyes. I flinched slightly from the shock of just how amazing hers were. She smiled at me and accepted my offer. While loading the bags, we had a bit of small talk and I invited her to lunch. She accepted and I couldn't help but grin like an idiot. I had begun to fall in love just because of her eyes. We went to a small cafe about half a mile from the store. We talked about work and family, the same old getting to know you bullcrap. We spent about 2 hours talking until a brief moment of silence elapsed. She stood up, saying maybe it was time for her to go. It wasn't enough, though. I needed to look at her eyes some more. They were perfect. I desperately asked if she wanted to come back to my place and maybe watch the most recent Walking Dead I had recorded days before. She smiled again, which widened her eyes, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. It was almost too good to be true. When we got to my place and I turned on the TV and poured a couple of drinks, we stretched out on my sofa and began to watch. I couldn't concentrate, though. I kept looking over at her in those eyes. It was almost impossible to focus on anything else. At one point, she noticed me staring at her and gave a shy smile. I couldn't resist and asked if she wanted to have fun. She considered it for a second and then nodded. I jumped on her, and soon she began making so much noise. It was so incredibly loud. I'm not good at much, but this is something I could be considered a bit of professional at. But still, she screamed and yelled and squirmed. I was taking my time because of those eyes, but there was no point in being anything but careful and flawless. It had carried on for hours until I was done. I had accomplished what I had set out to do. It took me less than a day to finish what I had been envisioning ever since I had seen her eyes. I stared at myself in the mirror, satisfied, and gave myself a very confident smirk, but what caught my attention were my eyes. so bright, very blue and almost icy, like the color you'd find way out in the Arctic.